I usually wouldn't take it. All right, so people had butchers, people had, you were telling me about a
Clothing, they were,
diamond.
yeah, they were selling like
Now,
my
who were your customers? Were they from other Jewish DP camps? Were they
No,
from the
no.
town?
My husband used to deal with the Americans, and he was selling to the or Germans. Germans were bringing the stuff, the Americans, and sometimes our people were buying, and they had their own customers. Like I remember somebody bought a diamond, didn't buy it, but he took a diamond, and he said, you know, the diamond, it doesn't look like a diamond, and my husband knew that it is, and he had fluid for the, you know, for the teeth, to clean it, you know, to something. He cleaned the diamond, and it sparkled, and he sold himself, and you know, you made money. The German asked for so much.
Was Stuttgart all like this? A thriving community of...
It was, I don't know, some other people how they live, I don't know, but some people live outside the you know, the P camp. But mostly they were black marketeering. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
There was no jobs. Some like Hanka Kent, she lived in Heidelberg. So she went to school there because she was younger. She wasn't married that time, you know. And few people I knew that they went to school, they continued their education.
Okay. So let's now get to, we're going to go back to America.
Okay.
I'm going to put this a little bit here. You were telling me about Williamsburg. How long did you live in Williamsburg?
I lived there, how long did I live there? Oh, my husband got a job in the Bronx. So we moved to the Bronx. Was in an elevator house. I didn't have to schlep. I had a carriage underneath the steps.
How long in Williamsburg? 1948 till when?
To about 50.
Okay. And the 2 years that you were in Williamsburg, what was he doing?
My husband was doing a lot of things. He went to job to have look for a dental technician, and the guy said to him, "You're gonna get $25 a week, and for a year, don't ask me for a raise." I had $39.90 to pay just for the rent, and I didn't work that time. So he found a place downtown Manhattan where they were making brass flower boxes and all kinds like I have here by the fireplace. And he knew how to solder, so he soldered. He worked on 2 jobs. He finished this job, he went to another job in the evening because we didn't have any money, you know. And I got a job in a garment center, and I was sewing winter coats in the summer, and in the winter I was sewing suits, light things, when it was bitter cold.
Okay.
So
that was during Williamsburg.
In Williamsburg. Then when I got pregnant, and my daughter was premature, 7 months, beginning of 7 months, and she gave me a hard time. She was a colic baby, and you had to open the windows because it was so hot. When you walk on the floor, from the soot, from the subway, and from the smell of the river, every morning I used to throw up. I was sick. You could wash the floor and you felt like going on scent, you know. And so when my husband got another job, we moved to the Bronx, and it was easier for me. I didn't have to shop with the baby. She had a carriage under the steps. One morning I came, the cat had kittens there and stank like hell. It was very hard for me. I was so skinny that scared was going around me. Yeah. So in the Bronx I met a lodger, maybe you, Helen Fox. Did you hear about?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and she had a boy who was a few months older than my daughter, and we became very friendly. My mother used to buy in their place in lodge sweaters when we went on a cruise, not a cruise, but when we were on winter vacation. And my mother even got herself first pair of pants, and she took pictures, sent to whole family. They should see that she's in pants, yeah. And I used to walk first. I had the pants when I was going ice skating in lodge. They call it Helenov, that place. And two Hasidim passed by and they say, "Shai gets a girl wearing pants." But then I became very good at ice skating, so my mother made me a velvet dress with some fur, and I got the regular ice skating. The skates were attached to the. Before we had one that we had, make it tighter,
Yes.
and in the back they were falling out also when you had to cut like a square so that the skate used to fit, used to fall off. So I was in business, ice skating, and so I
So
remember.
this is a woman you remembered.
I went
Now-
with my mother to buy we were going for the winter vacation, and I bought by her mother and father. I remember their place.
So now she was alive and living
She
in
was
the Bronx?
alive, and she married a lodger too. He was very nice guy, and she was young and she was gray. And we used to put one carriage, put both children together, and we went shopping together. We were very friendly for a long time.
Now, how long did you live in the Bronx?
And the Bronx, till my husband found a neighbor who happened to be, his son was friendly with us, was very nice boy, a young boy. He was coming to us in Stuttgart. And he was from my husband's city. And his wife was second wife, and she said that she's a farmer, she knows how to farm, and that time people were going to buy farms, and he talked my husband into buying a farm together. It was a house that had 2 apartments, and
Now, when was this?
it was in 53
And where was the farm?
in Flemington.
New Jersey.
It had 20 acres of land. We went, when my husband was alive, when we moved here, we went to see the houses and houses, and we couldn't make a living. The guy, he was going, every day my husband drove him to the train, and he was working in the millinery. And my husband and his wife and myself, we were working in the coops. And suddenly they became religious. They didn't want to work on Saturday. And she had a diabetes, and every time was something else. And I have a little girl, 2.5 years old. Once she opened up, there were like a screen porch. She got out by herself, she got bronchitis. She was sick. And he said he has enough. He's going to die on the farm. He wants to sell it. The prices were very low. And the chicken, the feed for the chicken was very high. And I lived on eggs, I can swear to you. Bread and eggs. And one day was Friday, and I said to my husband, we have to make something to eat. We couldn't afford to buy, meat. So I said, go and kill a chicken. he said, I would die and I wouldn't kill a chicken. I took a razor, with my husband, and I killed the chicken. The chicken was jumping all around without the head. I killed the chicken.
Okay, now what happened? Did you end up selling this property?
So we sold it. Matter of fact, that the lawyer was, he defended the Hauptmann, who was accused of killing Lindbergh's baby.
Okay.
He was our lawyer.
So you
We
ended up.
sold it.
And what was next?
And my brother-in-law got us an apartment in Brooklyn, 3 flights up, and I had already second baby.
And what did your husband do at that time?
That time it was unemployment, very bad, and my husband got a job for $1 an hour.
This is 1954?
It was 1955, because my daughter was born in 19. No, we moved in 1954, but she was born in
Okay, 1955.
Yeah.
And how long did you live in Brooklyn?
In Brooklyn, we didn't live long. We went once to the meeting
Radom?
for the Radom. We met this couple, and she said she has a house in the Bronx, in Pelham Parkway section. It was a nice section. And if I'm gonna take care of her little girl, I can have the apartment, but we paid rent. But they were so unconsiderate. They live upstairs, they have the heat.
Now, I don't want to focus on.
Yeah, so
I want to focus on the history more.
Yeah, so we were freezing there, and the 2 boys what she had were coming from school. There was nothing there to eat. They were coming to me to eat. I didn't have much, serves too much, and that time I got first payment from the Germany. It was about $3,400. That's it. This was my payment. Till I got it. It went from one court to another court to another court. But I had typhoid and typhus in the war. And Heidelberg University said that I am correct. So they gave me, and this money, they were building 3 houses not far from there, and we put the down payment for the house. She was.
So what year? In 1956?
It was 1950s. No, it was later, in about 1957.
Okay. And what was your husband doing at this point?
He was working in soldering.
Okay.
And at one time he was work for himself. That time the pocketbooks had like locks, that you open. So he was dealing with some people who have factory in Manhattan, and he was doing the locks for them.
So you had a house.
Yeah.
You got settled.
Yeah.
How long did you stay in this house?
Then my husband met next door, moved the couple, American couple. She was very artistic. Her sister was performing in a West Side Story as Maria's friend. Her sister was beautiful, very talented. The whole family, they were painters, they were artists, she played piano, everything. Her husband had a taxi, and he took my husband, Charlie, get yourself a taxi. And my husband bought a taxi for a few $1,000s, and he was paying out. And that's how he started. He worked over 25 years. He was driving in Manhattan.
Okay. And you stayed in the house in Pelham?
When the minute my daughter, there was a public school next block, the minute my daughter was eligible to go to kindergarten, yeah, I went to work. I went back to work, and this was the it was a 2-family house, but we had a big front, so from the garage we made a room, and my daughters were in this room, and my husband parked the taxi outside. My children can forgive him. Every Sunday he used to wake them up, go clean my taxi. Till today they crying. Yeah, and I had a tenant, so it was already easier. And there was a very nice Irish family, very nice. They had 2 boys. Later they have 3 boys, and then they had to move because she was pregnant. She had a 4th boy. So I paid her $10. She just opened the door and let my daughter upstairs. She was a very good baby. Just like the older one was impossible, she was a good child. And my husband brought her to school first day, and the last time he went, when she became a valedictorian. He never went to school.
Now I gotta ask you some questions. During all these years, did you get to socialize with survivors?
We always had meetings. We always were in touch with all the time, with everybody.
And were most of those people from
From
Stuttgart?
Stuttgart, Radom.
So it didn't matter whether you were living
No.
in Brooklyn?
No, there was a meeting during the day. We all got, people came from Australia and
To meet.
we had a New Year party, and I put my car outside, and it started to rain and suddenly froze, and we couldn't move the car. I called the AAA, they didn't come, so we couldn't go to the party. So next day a guy called me, he said, I came from Melbourne, Australia, and you couldn't come from Queens? Go explain to him.
Okay. Now, did you ever go in the summers to the Catskills, or did you ever go anywhere with people like?
I tell you something. When I lived on South 8th Street, there was a very nice couple, older couple, also old-timers. They had a telephone. I didn't have that time, you couldn't get a telephone. Didn't have the lines, you couldn't get it, I couldn't afford it either. And they let me use their phone. They were very nice. They had 2 daughters, and one daughter's husband was he was driving the subway. And every summer, she said my daughter went with the children to, the Catskills. So I said, I used to go when I was a little girl. I went to the mountains, I went here, I went there. So she said, you can go, because you don't have clothing. That's what she told you. You haven't got good clothing. I remember I had one skirt, was purple skirt, like a tight here, could stretch it, and a white peasant blouse. And I went to work, I came home, I washed it, hung up over this sink, over this bathtub, and next day I wore the same thing. I didn't have money. And then my friend Helen Berntein got married, so I have to get myself a dress and shoes that I couldn't wear. They were so high, the platform was so high, and a pocketbook, and I spent a lot of money. We wanted to save some money too.
Yeah. So no, you did not go to the Catskills, or in the summers you stayed?
No, I went to the Catskills many, many years later.
So when did you go?
When I already lived, I lived still in the Bronx, and my husband took off for a week.
What years? The 60s, the 70s, the 80s?
It was in the end 50s.
The later 50s.
50s.
How many years did you go?
I just went once with the children. We rented by a woman a room, and it was raining a whole day, a whole week.
Okay, but did you ever go?
But later on, I went with my husband.
Where did you
I
go
went to Neverly.
with survivors?
The Radom, in Kuches. The survivors had and I won a ping pong championship.
Okay, I just want to know what years you went.
It was already in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, 60s.
So you spent, when your kids were older, you spent some summers?
Yes. No, it was not summer. It was the society went like between season.
Okay,
So we went, yeah.
okay. So if Radham Society,
Yeah.
You went.
Yeah.
all right. So your social life and you would do
I was
special
on
events
the friends called.
until today.
Yeah, but there are so many,
So many have.
few,
I
so
understand.
few. You have no idea. I have, be honest with you, is 3, 4, 5 in Queens. Hanka, of course, is cousin. One in Baltimore, one that moved from Queens, elderly lady, but we're very close. She is in Los Angeles, and she in a home, independent living. And that's it. Few wind up, they had, Alzheimer. Few don't know, one is in Canada that she can't even talk, she doesn't recognize her own husband. So,
People are getting older.
but I have a girlfriend in Toronto. She helped me out. In the wartime, she got me working papers, and I'm with her all the time in touch. She's I have her picture here in the living room.
All right. Well, we're going to stop now with the
Okay.
interview,
Yes.
and we're going to talk about pictures. I want to thank you very much.
I have so many pictures.
Okay, great.